I want to start with icebreaker question? Let's see. When is the last time you traveled in a circle?
In a circle,
In a circle.
like revolutionary style, or like in a thing that was a circle, like with
Oh,
like
revolutionary style, where your path was circular.
oh, okay. Wow. Well, I guess like I don't know if this maybe like definitionally does not count, but the first thing I thought of was walking along my block. Like sometimes I just take walks and I just literally just go in a um like to keep turning right until I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like maybe not only is it called a block, but it's like a square technically, but it feels circular.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I think of. Like I'm sure I've gone on paths because I go on a lot of walks that are maybe more circular. Like I think there might be a circular path on campus that I go on to. And anyways, that would have been like within the last month
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah,
like actually answer the question.
I think topographically, a square is a circle. Not topographically, topologically. They're both rings. If you simplify it down to its whole based form.
Yeah, that's how I was thinking.
Yeah. And also like when you talk about someone traveling in a circle, it sounds self-defeating. It sounds like there's no progress. Like I feel like that's a common expression to say, "Oh, we're just going in circles. No progress is being made." But you purposely walk in topological circles. Is that like a thinking thing?
When I do it,
Mm-hmm.
um, oh my God, it's like weird, like the way that my mind works or the way that I do things is I'm like I should go on walks, but then something about the idea of deciding where to go is like anxiety inducing or stressful. So I just like go on the same walks all the time and I like listen to music or um podcasts or audiobooks. So it's like entirely practical essentially. Like it's like an easy path that I can that I can go on,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like having to keep track of where I am.
There was someone I was talking to who was saying, or was it during my master's program? But we were talking about time and the direction of time and how like under capitalism time is linear and it's about progressing forward. And you can think about graphs and projections and they have a direction. Um but someone was talking to me about circular time being meaningful. Might have been my friend Camrick when he was studying anthropology, but it's like the circularity of things, repetition of things, that can also be meaning making. For example, waking up every morning and doing your morning routine. Some people will like make a drink, yeah, or just like going on the same walk. That's also meaning making. I think the last time I walked in a circular fashion, I think I found out I'm a very extroverted person, like almost in a textbook definition way, almost in a way that should be embarrassing. Like it's like I'll go to a party and if I can't participate in the conversation, I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so exhausted. This is so tiring." And then someone says something to me and I'm like, "Oh my god, I have so much energy." um so I very much like to be stimulated, and the last time I walked in a circular way was during the polar vortex that happened this year. It was like minus 30. That was like, I think I was wearing a ski mask because the wind was so biting on your face. But then that would cause condensation to go up onto like the the condensation in my breath would go up onto my eyelashes, and it would just immediately freeze onto my eyelashes. It was that kind of cold. And
Uh,
I walked out to the lake. And at the end of Montrose Beach, there's this like concrete curl. It's like a kind of chameleon's tail. And it was so cold that there was snow that was just getting blown across the lake, and the concrete tail extended into the lake. And so when I got to the end, I was kind of surrounded by half frozen lake. I was surrounded by these wisps of snow that would just blow by, and I kind of felt like I was in the middle of infinity. So it was kind of interesting.
yeah. That's aren't you supposed to avoid going outside during the polar vortex?
It was also like I chose the most dangerous place to go because that concrete block was slippery. It was covered in ice. There was like a railing in the middle, like chains, and that was covered in ice. There was like thick icicles that you could just break off and chuck into the water. It was super dangerous.
So
Mm-hmm.
your my circle was like a square, and then
Mm-hmm.
your circle was a spiral inside of a
Mm-hmm.
vortex.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, the vortex has a shape. I like that. Yeah, non-circular circles. So, sun dogs. That's my transition. Um,
Yeah, that's smooth.
part of what I like about it is like this game could be a game where there's no graphics, it's just text. But the circularity of things is kind of it's doing something. So like if I'm traveling from one place to the other, it spins me out in this circle. And I feel like what it's doing is mostly aesthetic. Like it can be kind of annoying when I'm trying to go from one place to the other and then the animation perfectly timed so that I have to take the long way around. Um, but it kind of forces you to slow down.
I also think, and I could be totally wrong about this, because I mean we'll get into it, but there's a lot about this game I still don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Like ironically, given how simple it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also you can't reach things if you're
Mm,
if you're like the thing that you're in orbit around is too far away from the thing that you're trying to get to.
mm-hmm.
So I think to get to certain places, you actually have to like travel back and forth, um, such that things line up correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't seem. Well, I don't remember. I don't remember the last time I actually checked this, or if I checked this. But it does not seem like right now. Um, it looks like Earth is like the spoke on the screen right now, and there's like brown planet, black planet, which I think is Mercury, and then a yellow planet and another brown planet that you're linked to. And I don't think that's like necessarily always the case. Like
Mm-hmm.
depending on how far away like the brown planet is, you might not be able to get there from Earth sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't actually, because of the way this game works, it's still like you were mentioning, sort of like a matter of like slowing you down as opposed to like actually affecting anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like even if what I just said is true, that you can't always get everywhere, that just means that you have to like wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it won't actually affect anything.
Yeah, well, that is one of the questions I do have is like, does it affect anything? Before we answer that, for those who are part of posterity, there's a huge storm happening in Chicago right now. So I'm actually just going to run to my balcony real quick and make sure nothing blows away. So I'm going to pause for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, I have returned. You still there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this storm is honestly kind of awesome. Like, awesome, you know? It's like
Yeah.
thundering, it's crazy.
I did not realize it. I was out driving not that long ago, and
Yeah.
it was nothing was really going. It was like starting to sprinkle, but nothing was
Yeah.
really going on yet.
70 degrees in February. It's crazy. Um, but yeah, I think I also remember, being told that there's some like mechanic of you have to be close enough. Oops, I went to Mercury. Cool. 102 days. I was trying so hard to get to Jupiter, and I think I got on like one of these little asteroids really, really close to Jupiter. Like I was like here. I don't know if you can see my cursor.
I can't.
Ah, okay. Well, I was like right underneath Jupiter where it is now, and I still couldn't get to it. Um, so not really sure how that works. I think there's also like you saw just now. I got to the planet and it said like a time or like a length of days, and it says that every time you transition from one to the other, but sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. So I wonder if that's like the local date. I think there's a lot it feels like that they hope that you explore and figure out for yourself. Which I question the effectiveness of in this structure.
Yeah. Well, so there's still like I said a lot about this game I don't know the answers to, but actually before knowing that we were going to talk about it, I like looked stuff up for the first
Mm-hmm.
time, and so I actually do know the answers to certain things now. And I don't know if I should I just answer things when I know the answer, because he like okay, so there's like two game designers who worked or one game designer, one writer
Mm-hmm.
on this game. Nick Tringali, who actually is in Chicago,
Hmm.
and Rebecca McCarthy, who's like in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
She was the writer. And I found just the briefest thing that Nick Tringali that they use they them
Mm-hmm.
pronouns, and just the briefest thing that they wrote about this game, and it answered like 10 questions, like just directly, which I was not expecting.
Mm-hmm.
um, so
Yeah.
like now I kind of know their intent with the game,
Mm-hmm.
which I had no idea before. Like it was all guesses.
Yeah, tell
um,
us.
okay, wait, let me see. I think it's actually short enough that I can just read it out loud.
Yeah.
Let's see. So what? So the way that I found this was I was like I wonder if this. So I have this game on Steam. I think it's like also on itch.io,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like I kind of want to hear what folks have to say about this game. So I went to the discussion pages, and there's not a huge amount of discussion. This is like a very small game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one person posted a question where they were like, I did this one mission and I felt like I had all the like, so in this game you get like body modifications that ostensibly protect you from things that might happen later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, I have all these body mods and the thing that happened feels like it shouldn't have killed me. Did I not have the right combination of body mods? Did I screw something up? Did the game screw up? And the person who answered was the game designer. Um, and his answer answered all the questions that person asked, and then also a bunch of other things about what the game's intended to be.
Mm.
So yeah, I'll just read it out loud. It's 3 paragraphs, and pretty kind of short. They say, "Thanks for playing the game. You didn't do anything wrong on the canister stealing mission. Some deaths are avoidable, but not all of them, and would only require one item, not a combo." Which is one thing I did not know. I did not know. I didn't know that. I also assumed that maybe you needed multiple things to complete stuff, but that's not true. So, anyways, they go on. Not every item, skill, or mod has a use in the game. Whether the game ends or not is up to you. There is not a set storyline going through it. It has something like an ending where your body is corrupted beyond repair, but the game itself doesn't stop. One of the main thematic goals of the game is that much of the world and what happens to you is out of your control. The canister mission will never resolve because sometimes things just don't neatly wrap up that way. Sometimes you die and there's nothing you can do about it, even if you think you could. And from a production point of view, it would have taken an infinite amount of time to write out every possible outcome for the items to prevent you from death, let alone every encounter. So I hope you can sympathize with Rebecca and I. And sometimes you have an item or skill that really doesn't do anything except maybe flesh out your character and story a bit. I know all that is basically heresy according to traditional video game design, but that is what I wanted the game to evoke. I hope this satisfies your questions, but if you're still curious, you can read everything written in this game inside the story folder in the installation directory, or ask me more questions. That's like the most comprehensive answer from a game designer I've like ever heard.
That's crazy.
About like answering what the game does and what they wanted it to do. You can just read the game without even playing it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what their response was.
Yeah, that's interesting. Right, because like when you start the game, I'm I think it just starts you with a cortical stack and a sleeve, and it'll be like a standard sleeve. It's not that good. The sleeve I think refers to a body, and it's called a sleeve because it's this idea that bodies are kind of disposable. And I think the cortical stack is kind of like your mind, your skills, your memories. And so it does have the appearance of like the traditional arc. So I worked out and I like went to some place and I got operations and it says Belgrade enforcement sleeve, sturdy and tough, covered in flexible synthetic plates. You can feel your heavy gait and others treat you with caution. And it does seem like I should be advancing in this like power fantasy. And it's very interesting to hear them be like explicitly no.
Yeah, some things literally do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also think that like how do I put this? The like thing that you open this up with about linear time versus circular time. I feel like that one of the things about this game is that maybe it doesn't work for me. Is it feels like it like doesn't have it hasn't made up its mind about which of those two things it's doing.
Yeah.
Um, and because of the way it combines them, it makes I think the larger structure of the game implies that time is cyclical
Mm-hmm.
to a certain degree. Um, but then everything else in the game implies that that's not true. So like you can make progress like progress even exists. Like it might be different if the things that you collect, some of them were positive and some of them were negative, or that you knew that all of them were neutral, but they all seem positive.
That's a good point.
And so because of that, it feels like you're progressing towards something, and that when you die, instead of time being cyclical, it means that you failed
Mm-hmm.
to a certain degree, and you have to start over from the beginning. So rather than like time being a circle, it's more like shoots and ladders where like you're going forward, but sometimes you get set back a bunch.
Yeah,
Like you never make like a full revolution, I guess is what I'm saying. Instead, it feels like your time is linear, but also like slippery.
that's a really good way to describe it. Yeah, because especially with like the way the encounters happen, you'll like click explore and then sometimes it's filler and sometimes something interesting happens, and after something interesting happens, like this for example, I have the choice. I copy a commanding AI. I have the choice to steal the intelligence or lead the AI. That's often when I get something in this left side. So it feels like that's good because it feels like the things I get are a reward of having interesting things. And so it's building the structure of the power fantasy. But like you said, then sometimes I hit explore too much, the planet explodes, and I feel like I've slipped back down.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting if. Well, I don't know. I think one of the things about this game, and one of the ways that I was going to try to talk about it, um, is I feel like there's a whole lot of stuff really cool about this game, and a lot of things that feel to me like they don't quite work, and therefore one of the ways that I end up thinking about this game and talking about it all the time is like um, something I often don't think is that productive, which is saying like I wish that it did this or I wish that
Mm-hmm.
it did that. Um, so instead of doing that, I was going to try to like talk about why I wish that, because I feel like the reason I wish for things in this game are not even my preference. Like it's not like me being like I wish this game had guns. Well, actually, I never really prefer that. But like, it's not like when people are like, I wish that this game had like guns in it, um, and you could like
Right.
shoot things, like the new Pokemon clone game that just came out, where people are like talking about the thing that they like in games and they wish that that thing was in more games. Instead, the things that I wish this game was doing are things that I feel like the game implies that it wants to be doing or
Mm-hmm.
could be doing, and yet it's like not quite doing that thing. So like the thing that I just mentioned, where there's like all the circles that you see on the screen. I think one of the things that's communicating has to do with cycles, and so therefore it makes me wish that the game did more with the idea of the cycle. Um, so I don't know. I'm gonna try, I guess, if I mention what I wish a game, what I wish this thing was doing differently, that I explain like why I think the game seems to be hinting that it should be doing that thing. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Like that there's some sort of like overarching philosophy that the game has that like I think a different approach would have gotten us to or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
think.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
It is a game that feels strongly driven by some kind of vision or position. And not necessarily in a way where it's like a particularly boundaried vision or position. Like, it doesn't feel like it's something where it's like, this is a game that says time is cyclical and everything is futile. You should just upgrade your body then die. Like it's not really prescriptive. It's not really um strongly defined in that way, but it very much feels like through its aesthetic choices it's trying to convey something.